Can you take us through each of your guys and just sort
Sure.
of the first initial impressions of, strengths, weaknesses, the whole nine, the
Sure.
eval?
You guys probably have a better feel for Les because you've seen him here for a couple years and seen him play some games. Les is, first of all, an incredible leader, which is always important with that position. You can tell the team really rallies around him, really is drawn to him. And I think he works at it. I think he works at these relationships that he has with, whether it's the O-line, all the different position groups. And some of them, some of those guys just got here too. So he's had to work hard at kind of establishing himself with those guys over the last couple months. So from a leadership standpoint, he's really exceeded any expectations I think I would have. I think he's growing into and getting more comfortable in that role, because it really just started in January. It feels like a long time right now, but it's only been a few months, since this whole thing got started. So it's a work in progress a little bit, but he's done a great job with it. Physically, as you guys know, he's a big, strong, tough, hard-playing guy who will do whatever it is he would be asked to do in terms of the work that he puts in, what he has to do on the field. I think he's ready to sacrifice whatever he has to do to make this team successful. And I think he is a team guy first. I don't think he's going to sit there and check his stats after the game and say, hey, I played pretty well. I don't know what happened. I don't see him as one of those guys. He's all about the team and whatever role. However, do we have to throw it this amount of times? Are we going to try to zone read this amount? Are we going to try to run the ball? I don't think any of that would ever faze him. So big, strong arm. More mobility than I think people think. I think that's something we got to keep working on. But he's establishing a better feel for the pocket. I mean, sometimes you got to play live. When you haven't played live in a couple years, like for instance, Kade Coffin played live before. Other than the 4 games, like he was a senior in high school. Like sometimes when you're 2 years of not playing in live games, you can get a little rusty to the timing of. And that you actually got hit. Like I know in practice, the guy ran by you. In the game, he ran through you. You know what I mean? To understand that timing, because it's only been really 4 games in 2 years of significant time as far as, So I think that's continuing to improve. And then on top of the whole thing, he's running a whole new system. So, like regardless of, really this goes for all of them, they may have run the concepts before or not, but the verbiage is totally different. The guys are totally different. The splits might be different. The timing might, it's a lot to digest in a couple months just to learn it, and then to have to go execute at full speed against a good defense every day that we face is a challenge. But he's really, I think this system, I think we learned a lot about him the last few weeks about what's best, what type of plays are best for him, and try to, as the spring went on, Coach Sheridan kept trying to, push things that way. So he has success in the system. And we're going to be learning all the way through May and June and July and all, this is going to be a continuing learning process about each other all the way through until the opening game. But you couldn't ask for a better person, better work ethic. He's certainly a talented player, and he has really embraced this whole operation and been a leader for us. So Cam is the next most experienced guy. But this is his 3rd stop. Sometimes that can be hard. He's had experience with doing it before. You walk in January, you got to know the whole team, and you're playing quarterback. And I think the quarterback group is a really tight group, so been really accepting of and supporting of. That helps every day, the guys you're sitting with. I think the players recognize he brings an extra element of being able to run the ball, but that's not, I don't think he's a running quarterback. I think he has the ability to be very elusive in the pocket, pull the ball down and run and be productive. Any type of read type runs where he pulls the ball, he's shown to be effective in college football over the years. The good thing that I think when he moves in the pocket, he's moving looking to throw. He's made a lot of good throws on the move. Some guys, when they pull the ball down, they're running. You know, they don't have confidence in their arm. They're more of a running guy. And so what I've seen with him is, like, he's trying to make the play work. And then he's decisive enough to know, okay, it's not good. I got to get out of here. I'm not going to take a sack. I'm going to get something positive, and usually does. But he also knows when he's really not in danger and he can still work the pocket and have the option of continue to run or be able to complete the ball downfield. And he's made a lot of those plays down the field. So, you know, you try to parse these reps up with 4 guys as best you can. But I think we have a good feel for where he is. He's been fantastic in terms of his attitude and his leadership and learning, you know, everything we've asked him to learn. Leo's been here a year and a half from California. Leo is really a tremendously smart guy. Anytime you ask a question, he's almost like the guy in the class you have to say somebody else other than Leo. And there's only 4 guys in the class. But, like, he can answer before you even ask the question. You have to be like, okay, hang on. So super smart, super supportive. He and Les are very tight. He and Les are working a lot at this leadership business with trying to do things outside of the building with guys and, you know, rounding people up and group activity type thing, dinner here, cards there, you know, that type of thing. And look, he reminded me today, he's had 6 drives. We've scored on 5 of them. So he's been productive. When he's been on the field, he can see the field well. He can get the ball out quick. He can diagnose when the play's not good and just, you know, either throw it away or make some kind of positive out of it. So he's been, I guess if you say by percentages, maybe he's been the most productive, but he's been very productive for us, and he's great to have here because he, you know, a lot of times if a guy has to go in a game and he hasn't had a ton of reps, you worry about, does he really understand what he has to do? This guy, every day he goes out there, kind of understands what he has to do. Kade is just, just got here, should be still a high school senior. He, again, tremendously smart guy. Like when we give him something, we've had these quizzes throughout, off winter and spring, and like you get it back and it's like, it's word for word, exactly what you said in the meeting, every word, you're like, okay. So either photographic, whatever it is, but he's able to take it to the field as well. For a young guy, he really has a good feel for the game. He's got a strong arm, he's accurate. And I think he's learning. Like he's had some days where it's here, some days where not so great. But the good thing is, and by not so great, I just mean, whether he reads the progression too fast or he just tries to muscle one in there that's probably not the wisest, those type of things. But the good thing is he learns from them, and the next day is like, it doesn't happen again. And he's more athletic, and he's got a really good pocket feel for where to slide and move, not drastic movements, but little movements, subtle movements to avoid trouble and get the ball out.
Having Alessio, like Pat said the other day, he's our starter. Like, to have it sort of be no doubt, like about a pecking order, is that helpful, or does that allow you to do other things, or just sort of progress in a different way? I guess where it's not like, hey, we're going to be battling into camp, or whatever. Like when there's kind of a clear understanding, I guess, at this point of things.
Yeah, I always think, because I've been places where it's the quarterback competition, which is very difficult to do these days because there just aren't enough reps. Like we don't, whether it was the NFL or college, like you do not have the same amount of reps you used to have. You just don't have the depth you used to have. Like you used to have those 150 play scrimmages on a Saturday, and everybody could get all these reps. Like there aren't enough plays sometimes to do a real competition. I just, I'm sure there's ways you could set it up, but it's hard. What I do, so point being, I think it's good for the team to have a clear vision of, okay, that's the guy, that's the leader, this is the guy that we follow. Because I do think sometimes when you don't know, I've been places where people got into one camp or the other, and then but that's not good for the team, and then, or it gets just kind of muddled and confusing, and they're waiting the same as everybody for the announcement, and it's like, oh, okay, this guy's starting, and it startles them a little bit or whatever. So I think it's always good for the team to have that kind of vision of, that's the guy that's leading us here. But I think and the good thing with Les, I think we know that he realizes, you got to keep going. You got to get better. You got to keep playing better. You can't just sit on that and go, okay, this is great. I don't have to work anymore. And obviously Fitz knows that as well. When he said that, like, this guy is driven to get better, every day. He's up in the office. He's here all the time. When he's not in class, he's in the business school, which is academic rigors for sure. But he's here as much, as he can, working on football as well. So, and I think the other guys are in different stages of their, careers. Could there be a role for Cam? Certainly. The guy's got a different skill set. Leo and Kade, I think, they're close with Les. They're very supportive there. I think they know at any point in this business they could be the next guy up, which that's the way it's kind of been. I think because part of it is the respect for Les and the way he works and conducts himself, and how he is as a person. If the guy was a jerk who didn't work, then I think the other three guys would be going, what am I, why do I have to do all this? This guy's done nothing and he's the starter. That happens too, So I think there's a high level of respect there for the way that he conducts himself and how he plays the position. So, and I just think it's good to have an understanding at this point. This is how we're going forward. And Les knows nothing's like guaranteed. He's got to play well, but I think that clears up a lot for your whole team.
Have you ever coached a lefty like Cam?
The only guy I was coaching receivers in Jacksonville, we had Mark Brunell, who was obviously a great player. He's at Detroit now as a quarterback coach. Yeah. So I never thought of it as I don't know. I know some guys, get into, do you need to switch to left and right tackle? Do you call? Personally, I think there's two things. It's a little different for the players too. Two things, like, your movement throws, you'd rather have the lefty go left and the righty go right. And we don't go 100%. We work on, having to go opposite way and getting your shoulders turned and downhill and all that. I think that becomes a factor, if you're a sprint out naked type team. Those are something to think about. There's certain play actions that you might think about that. The thing that's different is the ball spins differently. Like, I didn't really, when we were in Jacksonville, we had Jimmy Smith and Keen McCardle, we were throwing the ball down the field, and all of a sudden, like, Jay Fiedler, I don't know why that pops to mind, would come in the game as a righty and throw a go ball, and Jimmy'd drop it, which you'd never see, and he was like, it didn't, it curls a different way, it spins a different way. So it is different, for a receiver, and it showed up a couple times, I think, when they switch out real quick. It's just different catching the ball. But other than that, I don't really think about it. It's weird. I'll try to demonstrate something for them, and then I'll be like, okay, hang on. Let me do it as a righty first, and then I'll try to do it as a lefty. But you know what I'm saying? Yeah. It is weird. But I don't. That's the only thing I think is a little bit different. I know some other, guys have gone way this way with. There's all these things you have to do if you have a lefty. That's overthinking it a little bit, I think. So Mark was certainly a great player and a great guy. Detroit's lucky to have him for sure.
What are your impressions?
Time for a couple more. Yeah.
Okay.
What are your impressions of Nick Sheridan as a young coach? I believe you guys have worked together before, and not asking you to give away, all the family secrets, but what has made that offense so effective, whether it was at Indiana or Washington or Alabama for these last 7-8 years or whatever, under DeBoer and all that?
Yeah, he, Nick is incredibly smart, and he's incredibly good person, great person, and very inclusive. And so I think the players understand and the coaches understand. It's not like us and them or you guys on the staff and me. There's not a, hey, when it goes well, yeah, I call it a great game. When it doesn't go well, you guys coach bad, or played bad. There's not that, which I've seen before. Nick really does a great job of cultivating really good relationships with everybody. He's very direct, very outgoing in terms of, grabbing a guy here or there to talk about, hey, this is all you need to do to get better. Just try to do this today. I've seen him, in the stretch lines, for instance, he'll go and talk to every guy, but it's not just, hey, man, how you doing? It's like, hey, maybe a little more bend today and get your hands inside. It's just, I think they know everything he's doing is for their best interest and ultimately the best interest of the team. So he has no qualms about, we get in a meeting, calling, it doesn't matter what it's less to the last guy in the room, this isn't good enough, This isn't your best. This is what we expect. This is, and sometimes in this era, as they say, guys could be like taken aback by that, but I think they understand. I mean, they have to, but I think they get to a point where they understand. He's doing it to anyone, that's not doing their job, and B, he is just trying to get me better. He's not a jerk who's trying to hates me. You know what I mean? I think because he's builds those relationships with the kids, he's able to tell them the truth, which is sometimes what people don't do, and then it becomes a bigger problem when you get down the road. So, and listen, the systems, you got a lot of movement. That's why there's a lot of, to put on the players' plates, a lot of formation variety, movement variety, which you don't see a whole lot in college football. That puts a lot on the players, and ultimately, I think they see the success that they could have with it, but it's certainly been balanced. It's been explosive. We're trying to, there's a lot, give opportunities to push the ball down the field, which is, the only way you score. You can't just grind away 4 yards at a time. But there's always been a solid run game with it, with options there, with movement, and so it's a very, it's not at all static, which a lot of, I think, college offenses are. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of adjustments for defenses to make, and a lot of times that leaves you with chances for explosive plays.
What would you like to see on Saturday, like the next step of development for your guys?
Well, we've, knock on wood, we've really done a great job of taking care of the ball, which, our first scrimmage, we had some turnovers. I believe we've had them since. So we've done a great job in that regard of understanding when to let a play go, when it's not there. Like, we're not just taking these impulse throws into, because we're trying to make a play. Just operate the play. If it's not good, it's not good. More of that continue to happen. More of the command and control at the line of scrimmage. I don't know that we're going to run a full variety of everything we got, obviously, but just the control of the operation. To make sure, the way you always goof up these type of things on Saturday are false starts, CQ exchange, the ball's on the ground, the substitutions. So the quarterback's got to manage all that and keep the train on the tracks, so to speak, and a smooth operation. And then the situational stuff, whether it's red zone of not taking sacks, obviously not turning the ball over, not doing something that would cause you to have a false start because you want to change up the cadence here on the 10-yard line, things like that. And then in 2-minute operating the 2-minute at a high level, understanding when to you just throw it out of bounds, but knowing I could take the check down here in bounds. It doesn't matter. I'm just trying to get the thing going. All those would be the things I would say: ball security, smooth operation, and then handle the situations as they come up accordingly.
You're pretty happy with the progress through 14 practices?
Yeah. I think when we started, there were a couple of days. We've gotten better. I think there were certain, whether it was throwing on the run or whether it was the impulse throws into coverage, those have kind of gone out the window as we've slowly, because I think that's part of getting to know the guys. You might have assumptions, or you do the general stuff the first couple of days of, your drill work, and then you realize, okay, here's specifically what these guys need to work on. And then when you're able to hone in on those things, we've seen a lot of progress. Got a ways to go, but we've seen a lot of progress in some of the areas we needed to improve on as we went through the spring.
Thanks, Coach. Appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks,
Good to meet
guys.
you.